Dear students, good day. Let us start our session with Geography, Unit 2, Lithosphere II, Exogenetic Processes. In this session, we are going to learn about the various external processes of the Earth, different types of weathering, the erosional and depositional landform features associated with rivers, underground water, glaciers, winds, and waves. Introduction. The Earth is a dynamic system that undergoes various changes due to internal and external processes. The continuous interaction of these two processes controls the structure of the Earth's surface. The external processes are the consequence of solar energy and gravitational forces, whereas the internal processes are an outcome of the Earth's internal heat. Exogenetic process is divided into weathering and mass movement and gradation. Weathering. Weathering is a breaking, disintegration, and decomposition of materials of the earth crust by the air exposure to atmosphere. There are three types of weathering: physical weathering, chemical weathering, and biological weathering. Physical weathering. It is a breakdown of rocks without changing their chemical composition through the action of physical forces. The constant freezing and thawing of rocks during the night and the day leads to the expansion and contraction of rocks. Cracks are formed and disintegration occurs eventually. Exfoliation, granular disintegration, block disintegration, etc. are the different types of weathering. Exfoliation. The alternate heating and cooling on rounded rock surfaces leads to the peeling of rocks layer by layer like an onion. This is called exfoliation. Granular disintegration. Granular disintegration takes place in crystalline rocks where the grains of the rocks become loose and fall out. This is due to the action of temperature and frost. Block disintegration. Repeated expansion and contraction of rocks during day and night respectively causes stress on the joints of the rocks, which results in block disintegration. Chemical weathering. Disintegration and decomposition of rocks due to chemical reactions is called chemical weathering. This is predominantly high in the hot and humid regions such as the equatorial, tropical, and subtropical zones. Chemical weathering takes place through the processes of oxidation, carbonation, solution, and hydration. The agents of chemical weathering are oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and water. Oxidation. Oxygen in the atmosphere reacts with the iron found in rocks, thus leads to the formation of iron oxide. This process, similar to the rusting of iron, pressure of air and water, is known as oxidation, which results in the weakening of rocks. Carbonation is a mixing of water with the atmospheric carbon dioxide forming carbonic acid. Carbonation is important in the formation of caves in limestone region. When the carbonic acid reacts with the carbonate rocks, the rocks get disintegrated. Solution. The process of dissolution of rock substance in water results in the loosening of the rock particles. This in turn breaks down the rocks. Hydration. Absorption of water into the mineral structure. Certain chemicals in the rock enlarge in size in humid conditions. These minerals found in the rock swell, and this results in the development of cracks and rock wears down. This type of weathering is called hydration. Biological weathering. Biological weathering occurs due to the penetration and expansion of plant roots, earthworms, and some human activities. Gradation. Gradation is a process of leveling of the land by means of natural agents like rivers, groundwater, winds, glaciers, and sea waves. Gradation takes place in two ways: degradation and aggradation. Gradation. Gradation is a leveling, wearing down of the land surface by various natural agents. Aggradation. Aggradation is building up of landforms due to natural agents. Degradation. Degradation is eroding the land surface. Gradation equal to erosion plus transportation plus deposition. Agents of gradation. Running water, river. The work of running water is the most extensive among all the other agents of gradation. Rivers originate on higher landforms like mountains, hills, and plateaus that receive water from various sources like the rain, glaciers, springs, lakes, etc. The place where the river originates is called its source, and where it joins the sea is known as its mouth. Courses of river. Rivers generally originate from mountains and end in a sea or lake. The whole path that a river flows through is called its course. The course of a river is divided into the upper course, the middle course, and the lower course. The upper course. Erosion is the most dominant action of river in the upper course. The upper course of river gradient are steep. Though steep, increases the velocity, and the river channel performs erosion with great force to widen and deepen its valley. The land features carved by a river in its upper courses are V-shaped valleys, potholes, waterfalls, etc. The middle course. The river enters the plain in its middle course. The volume of water increases with the meeting of many tributaries and thus increases the load of the river. Thus, the predominant action of a river is transportation. Deposition also occurs due to the sudden decrease in velocity. The river in the middle course develops some typical landforms like footplains, meanders, oxbow lakes, etc. The lower course. The river moving downstream across a broad, level plain is loaded with debris brought down from its upper and middle courses. Large deposits of sediments are found at the level bed, and the river splits into a number of channels called distributaries. The main work of the river here is deposition, and it develops typical landforms like delta, etc. Erosional landforms of river. Gorge and canyons. Gorge. When the river flows through a mountainous region made up of hard rocks, it formed valley with almost vertical sides called gorge. A deep gorge with steep sides that runs for hundreds of kilometers is referred to as canyons. Waterfall. When a river flows in a region where hard rocks lie over soft rocks horizontally, the soft rocks get eroded quickly and the rock hearts projects outwards. Thus the river falls vertically from a steep slope to form a waterfall. V-shaped valley. A V-shaped valley is formed by the vertical erosion of the river where the valley is deepened and widened. Pothole. Due to the river action, cylindrical holes are drilled vertically in the riverbed with varying depth and diameter. These are called potholes. Meander. As a river loaded with debris flows slowly, it forms sweeping loops and bends. It refers to as a meanders. Oxbow Lake. Meanders in due course of time become almost a complete circle with narrow necks. This in turn gets unoccupied and forms a lake. This is called an oxbow lake. Depositional landforms of river. Alluvial fan. A fan-shaped deposition made by the river at the foothills is called an alluvial plain. Footplain. Fine sediments are deposited on river banks when a river. These sediments make the region rich and fertile. This is called a footplain. Delta. A triangular shaped low-lying area formed by the river at its mouth is called delta. Karst topography. As an agent of gradation, underground water creates distinct landforms in limestone regions called karst topography. Groundwater is an active agent in limestone regions. Karst topography is formed due to the dissolution of soluble rocks such as limestone, dolomite, and gypsum. Erosional landforms of underground water. Most of the erosion takes place due to the process of solution. When rainwater mixes with carbon dioxide and enters into a limestone region, it dissolves and destroys much of the limestone. As a result, landforms such as terra rosa, lapis, zinc holes, etc. are formed. Terra rosa. Deposition of red clay soil on the surface of the earth is due to the dissolution of limestone content in rocks. The redness of the soil is due to the presence of iron oxide. Lapis. When the joints of limestone rocks are shaped into parallel ridge by groundwater, long narrow trenches are formed, and these are called lapis. Zinc hole. A funnel-shaped depressions formed due to dissolution of limestone rock is called zinc holes. Their average depth ranges between 3 and 9 meters. Caves and caverns. Caves are hollows that are formed by the dissolution of limestone rocks when carbon dioxide in air turns into carbonic acid after its reaction with water. They vary in size and shape. Caverns are the caves with irregular floor. Depositional landforms of underground water. It is interesting to note that a variety of depositional features are formed on the floor, ceiling, and walls of the caves of the karst topography. Stalactite. When the water containing dissolved calcite gradually drips from the ceiling of the caves, water evaporates and the remaining calcite hangs from the ceiling. Stalagmites. Stalagmites are formed when the calcite deposits rise upwards like a pillar. Sometimes stalactites and stalagmites meet together to form columns or pillars. Movement of glacier. A glacier is a large mass of ice that moves slowly over the land from its place of accumulation. It is also known as river of ice. The place of accumulation is called snowfield. The height above which there is a permanent snow cover in the higher altitude or latitude is called snow line. Higher the latitude, lower the snow line from sea level. Erosional landforms of glacier. Cirque. The glacier erodes a steep side wall of the mountain and forms a bubble-shaped armchair-like depression. It is termed as cirque. Arete. Arete are narrow ridge formed when two cirque walls joined together back to back and forms narrow knife-like ridge. Pyramid peak. The pyramid peaks formed when two or more cirques meet together. U-shaped valley. When the glacier moves down along a river valley, the valley further gets eroded deep and wide to form a U-shaped valley, hanging valley. These are valleys eroded by tributary glacier and that hangs over the main valley. Fjord. Fjords are glacial valleys that are partly submerged in the sea. Depositional landforms of glacier moraine. Landforms formed by either glacial deposits of valley or continental glaciers are termed as moraine. Drumpling. Drumplins are deposits of glacial moraines that resemble giant reversed teaspoons or half-cut eggs. Esker. Long narrow ridge composed of boulders, gravel and sand deposited by streams of melting water which run parallel to a glacier are called eskers. Outwash plain. An outwash plain consists of glacial sediments deposited by the melting ice at the terminus of a glacier. It appears as an extensive accumulation of sand, gravel and slit. When air blows horizontally at or near the earth's surface is called wind. Erosional landforms of wind. Mushroom rock. By the constant wearing down action of the wind, the bottom gets eroded away to form a mushroom-like structure. This is called mushroom rock. Inselberg. Certain hard rocks like igneous rocks are more resistant to wind action. Such isolated leftover hills rising suddenly from their surroundings are termed as inselbergs. Yardown. In arid regions, certain rocks have hard and soft layers arranged vertically. When winds blows over these rocks, the soft layers get eroded, leaving irregular crest. These are called yardown. Depositional landforms of wind. Barchan. Barch are isolated, crescent-shaped sand dunes. They have gentle slopes on the windward side and steep slopes on the leeward side. Transverse dunes. It is asymmetrical in shape. They are formed by alternate slow and fast winds that blow from the same direction. Longitudinal dunes. Longitudinal dunes are long narrow ridges of sand which extend in a direction parallel to the prevailing winds. Loess. The term loess refers to the deposits of fine slit and porous sand over a vast region. A steady up and down movement of surface water are called waves. Erosional landforms of waves. Sea cliffs. Sea cliffs are steep rock faces formed when sea waves dash against them. The rocks get eroded to form steep vertical walls. Sea cave. Prolonged wave attack on the base of a cliff erodes rock materials, which result in the formation of caves. Sea arch. When two caves
approach one another from either side of a headland, they form an arch. Sea stack. Further erosion by waves ultimately leads to the total collapse of the arch. The seaward portion of the headland will remain as a pillar of rock known as stack. Wave cut platforms. Flat surface found at the foot of sea cliffs are called as wave cut platforms. Depositional landforms of waves. Beach. Sand and gravel are moved and deposited by waves along the shore to form beaches. Bar. A bar is an elongated deposit of sand, mud found in the sea almost parallel to the shoreline. Spit. A spit is a ridge or embankment of sediment attached to the land on one end and terminating in open water on the other end. In this session, we learnt about the various external processes of the earth, different types of weathering, the erosional and depositional landform, features associated with rivers, underground water, glaciers, winds and waves. Thank you.